Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Are you guys getting ready to jump into the Outlands and relive the glory days of the Burning Crusade? One of the biggest questions on everyone's mind is which class should I play? Especially if you're an altaholic like myself who has 5 different alts. Which one will be the strongest? Should I make another one? Well, with the return of the original expansion, the meta will be shifted, and some classes that were once on the top will be fallen, while others will rise to the legendary status. In this video, we're going to dive deep and rank every class in WoW the Burning Crusade, from the absolute best to the ones that might struggle a little. So stick around to find out which class should you be leveling to dominate the Black Temple and beyond. Alright, well let's jump right in. We will begin with the most popular class in the current era, the class that dominates every single raid. Of course, it's the Warriors. Now, Warriors in Burning Crusade will no longer be the dominant class they are currently in the current classic version, but they will still hold some strong niches. DPS Warriors will not be the go-to DPS class for raids any longer, while Arms Warriors will be more desirable because they will bring the Blood Frenzy debuff, which will increase the physical damage of the entire raid. However, you will only need 1-2 tops, so raid spots will be competitive. Fury Warriors, on the other hand, will purely be for the damage, and they do lack raid utilities, making them less thought and less desirable than the Arms Warriors. Overall, DPS Warriors will be landing in the C tier in the Burning Crusade. As far as the tanks, Protection Warriors will remain the top tier choice for tanking. They will have the most complete tanking kit with powerful cooldowns like Shield Wall and The Last Stand, and they will excel in threat, mitigation, and utility. Their ability to generate threat with the Shield Slam and their strong gear scaling, combined with quality of life improvements like being able to use the Thunderclap in defensive stance, will keep them on the tanking throne. Tanking Warriors are absolutely hands down S tier in the Burning Crusade. Now what about PvP? Well, early on, Warriors will be a decent PvP class. However, once they acquire weapons like Deep Thunder or Thorn Herald, their value will increase significantly due to stun effects. They might need a few seasons to get the proper gear, however they will eventually become the dominant force in arenas, especially by Season 3. In PvP, Warriors land in the A tier. Next up, we have the second most popular class in the current era. It's the Mage. Now, in Burning Crusade, Mages will be top-tier class for both player versus environment and player versus player content. They are one of the highest damage per second dealers in the game, only behind 2 more other classes that we will discuss later. In PvP, Mages provide critical and crucial ability to any group or the raid. This includes Conjure Refreshment Table for food and water, the Arcane Intellect buff, and crowd control with spells like the Polymorph. The expansion also adds Spell Steal, a new spell that can be vital in specific boss fights. Initially, the Fire spec is the strongest choice for damage. Later on, Arcane becomes a viable alternative as well. Mages excel at both single target and area of effect AoE damage, particularly in the execute phase of a fight, thanks to the Molten Fury, which increases the damage by 20% on low health targets. They also have a strong survivability with spells like the Ice Block and the new Invisibility. Mages absolutely land in the A tier for the PvE rating. What about PvP? Well, Mages are exceptionally strong in PvP, particularly in the arena. Their toolkit is a powerful combination of control, utility, and damage. Spells like Counterspell, Polymorph, and Ice Block allow them to counter nearly any opponent. While talents like Shatter enable them to deal burst of damage, their versatility and crowd control makes them top pick for 2v2 and 3v2 arena compositions. In PvP, Mages absolutely earn the A tier. Well, let's talk about a class that truly shines in the Burning Crusade. The Rockstar of the Damage. There's actually 2 classes like that. One of those classes is the Hunter. Hunter will receive the much-needed boost in the TBC, as currently in the era, Hunter is mediocre at best. Now in TBC, there will be 2 main specializations for the Hunter, the Beast Mastery and the Survival. The Beast Mastery will be the top-tier choice for the single target damage, thanks to abilities like the Steady Shot and the talents that empower your pet, which will account for about 30% of your damage. The Beast Lord armor set also provides a significant boost, and the removal of Dead Zone allows for melee weaving with Raptor Strike to further increase the damage. While Survival specialization has slightly lower damage output, it does provide essential raid utilities with Exposed Weakness, a talent that boosts all physical damage for the raid team. This makes Survival Hunter a valuable asset to any raid group. Hunters also gain new abilities like Misdirection for threat management and retain strong crowd control options like the Freezing Trap and the Frost Trap, as well as their signature threat dump, the Feign Death. Hunters land absolutely in the S tier in the Burning Crusade. They will be the top damage dealers and valuable raid asset. What about PvP? Well, in PvP, Hunters are primary burst damage dealers, especially early in the season. The removal of the Dead Zone and changes like the Mortal Strike effect on Aim Shot and Magic Dispel on Arcane Shot makes them more viable in PvP than they were ever before in the original game, in the original era. In PvP, Hunters squarely land in the A tier. Now, before we continue to the rest of the classes, I have to ask you all for a very small favor. If you will find this video at all informative or interesting, please like and especially subscribe. Help me reach my sub goal. I am so close to becoming a YouTube partner. Help me out. It's free. Thank you. Alright, well, next, let's talk about the least popular class in the current era. A class that truly deserves some boosts and buffs and a rework of their talent tree. It is the Druid. Now, in the Burning Crusade, Druids will receive some buffs and rework, much-needed rework. However, it still would fall short, unfortunately, as I do happen to love Druids. Now, in the Burning Crusade, Druids will gain significant new tools, making them a more versatile and viable class across all specializations. The Balanced Druids evolve from a meme spec to a valuable support class. While they still may not top damage meters, their utility is highly sought after. Key improvements will include improved Fury Fire, which boosts raid members' chance to hit, and a buffed Mumkin form that will provide a 5% spell crit, which is a huge benefit to caster groups. For rotation, increased buff and debuff caps will allow the use of abilities like Moonfire and Insect Swarm, improving their overall damage and playstyle. However, mana management remains a key challenge. In PvP, Balanced Druids are a rare sight. Where Druids primarily heal, their biggest new tool is Cyclone, a powerful crowd control ability. Balanced Druids land in a B tier for raiding and in a B tier for PvP. Next we have the Feral Druids. See, Druids are jacks of all trade, but master of none. Druids can fill almost every niche, almost every role in a raid or PvP group, but they will never master them. So Feral Druids are in a great spot for tanking, and a much better place for DPS compared to Classical era. In DPS, the gap between Feral DPS and pure DPS classes like Rogues or Warriors is reduced. New abilities like Mangle significantly boost the damage, while new talents and consumables solve previous mana issues. However, their damage is still considered middle of the pack, and they do lack strong raid-wide utility. The absence of Cleave also makes them less effective on trash mobs and speedruns. Unfortunately, Feral Druids land in the C tier. For tanking, however, Bears are still exceptional tanks. They have the highest effective health and threat generation of all tanks. While they lack defensive cooldowns and a shield, their high avoidance and immerse health compensates for the lack of the defensive cooldowns. Ferals rank A for tanking. In the arena, Ferals are actually the weakest spec for Druids, but it can be effective in double DPS teams. Their viability increases significantly in the later seasons as their PvP gear will improve. In the arena, considering that their gear will improve in later seasons, Ferals would fall into a B tier. What about Resto Druids? Well, Resto Druids do receive some key buffs as well that solidify their identity as a heal over time specialist. Heal over time stacking with the increased buff cap from multiple Resto Druids can now stack on a single target. Some new abilities like Tree of Life and Life Bloom enhance their iconic heal over time playstyle. And while Resto Druids are a viable and fun healing option, they often fall behind other healing classes in pure performance. However, they bring all the standard Druid utilities like the Innervate, Rebirth, which can make them a valuable addition to the raid. Resto Druids rate B on my tier list. But which class is going to be the best of the best? The top pick, the ultimate S tier? Well, it's going to be the Warlock. See, in the Burning Crusade, Warlocks are top-tier class for both damage and utility. They excel in single target and area of effect damage and provide essential raid support. Some of the key strengths include exceptional damage, versatile ability, and crowd control. Warlocks are one of the best damage dealers in TBC, especially with the new powerful AoE spell called Seed of Corruption. The spell's high damage cap and long range makes it one of the best spells in the game. Furthermore, Warlock brings a host of useful abilities, including Curses, Master Hellstones, Ritual of Summoning, and Master Soulstone for wipe prevention. Warlocks also have crowd control, which include Fear, Banish, and Seduction, which are valuable in both raid and PvP setting. All three specializations are viable and work great for Warlocks: Destruction, Demonology, Affliction. The Destruction spec is known for its reliable single-target and AoE damage, and Fire Destruction is a very strong option, especially when paired with a Fire Mage. The Demonology focuses on the Warlock pet, the Felguard, usually Felguard, which deals high damage even during player movement or incapacitation. Since pets now will scale with your stats, this spec excels in fights where you can't personally attack the boss, but your pet can. The Affliction, the utility bot spec, Affliction Warlocks apply multiple damage over time effects, benefiting from the increased debuff cap in TBC. Their damage over time allows them to deal consistent damage while moving, and they also provide raid-wide benefits like the Shadow Embrace or Malediction. While Destruction Warlocks have the great burst in PvP, Affliction Warlocks generally have more success in the arena due to their superior sustain. Warlocks rate hands down S tier for both PvE or PvP. It is now time to talk about my favorite class. My all-time favorite class in World of Warcraft is of course the Rogue. Now, Rogues in Burning Crusade are a gear-dependent damage dealers. While their damage in Phase 1 is outpaced by others, they do become top-tier DPS in later phases and with better gear. Despite lower early game damages, Rogues are viable raid members. Their most important contribution is Expose Armor, which provides a significant armor reduction debuff that increases the physical damage of the entire raid. Rogues also have the exceptional personal utility and survivability, with abilities like Evasion, Vanish, Sprint, and the new Cloak of Shadows. Smart use of these skills allows Rogues to survive raid mechanics and control their threat, reducing the burden on healers. Two most popular builds are Combat and Assassination. Combat is the dominant raid specialization. The powerful new talent Combat Potency and the buffed sword specialization make Combat Sword Rogues far superior to other specs in PvE. Unfortunately, Rogues don't bring too much else besides somewhat medium damage, therefore they rate B tier for the Burning Crusade. As I said, they do get better damage in the later phases, however, they still would rate as a B. Now, Assassination and Subtlety, these specs are not competitive with Combat for PvE. However, Subtlety is a top-tier choice for PvP due to its strong burst damage, crowd control, and survivability from abilities like Shadow Step and Cloak of Shadows. Rogues absolutely rule the arena. It is the S-tier class if you're looking to do some PvP. Now, Rogues have very limited multi-target damage capabilities, but they do excel at high single-target burst damage using cooldowns like Blade Flurry and Adrenaline Rush. Next up, we got the Shamans. Elemental, Enhancement, and Restoration Shamans are all highly valuable in the Burning Crusade, with each spec bringing unique strengths to the raid. Elemental Shamans are strong early on due to talents that provide a high amount of spell hit and spell crit without needing much specific gear. They provide essential raid utility including Bloodlust, Heroism, and the Totem of Wrath and the Wrath of Air Totem for the caster groups. Their main weakness is lower scaling with the end game gear, and reliance on cast times, which makes them vulnerable to interrupts. However, this is rarely an issue in the PvE. In the PvE, Elemental Shamans rate as an A tier. In PvP, however, due to the interrupts or vulnerability to interrupts, they rate as a B tier. Enhancement Shamans get significant rework with dual wielding and an improved Storm Strike. They bring crucial physical DPS buffs with Unleashed Rage and are a key part of a melee group. While they can struggle in 2 vs 2 PvP arena, they do excel in 3 vs 3 and 5 vs 5 setups, especially when paired with classes that can control enemies while they provide support and burst damage. Enhancement Shamans also land in the A tier for PvE, and they do land in the B tier in PvP as they do rely on their teammates and they're not very good in 2 versus 2 arenas. Now, Restoration Shamans are considered one of the best healers in the game. They are the only source of bloodlust heroism from a healer's perspective and provide a wide array of totems for both melee and caster groups, including the new Mana Tide totem. The new Earth Shield helps with passive healing and spell pushback, while Chain Heal remains a powerful group healing tool. The reliance on hard casts is their main weakness, but this is easy manageable in PvE. Resto Shamans land hands down in the S tier for as far as healers. Holy guacamole, it is time for the Paladin. Now, there are 3 types of Paladins: Retribution, Holy, and Protection Paladins. And while in Classical Era there was not much use for any other than Holy Paladin, Burning Crusade does bring a variety of roles and does improve the use for Ret and Protection Paladins. Here's a quick breakdown. Retribution Paladins are a strong choice for Gruul Slayer and Mag Slayer due to their decent damage and buffs like improved Seal of the Crusader. They also have excellent defensive tools like the Divine Shield to avoid raid mechanics. However, they are suboptimal for Karajan as they rely on specific raid buffs like Wind Fury Totem or the Battle Shout that are not guaranteed in the 10-player groups. They have some general weaknesses as well, especially in Phase 1, including limited AoE damage and being a melee class in a ranged friendly tier. While they are viable in PvP, they are not the top-tier choice. Ret Pallies rate B and B in PvE and the PvP tiers. Let's go to the Holy. Holy Paladins remain effective single-target healers and are a solid choice for raid teams. Though fewer are needed compared to Classic, they excel at tank healing and provide key buffs like Greater Blessing of Kings and Aura Mastery. New talents like Divine Illumination and Holy Guidance make the spec more engaging. Despite a nerf to their mana return talent, better gear itemization in the Burning Crusade helps them with the mana sustain. Holy Paladins remain as an A-tier healer for any raid. Now what about the tank Pallies? Well, Protection Paladins are still the top choice for tanking dungeons and heroics and are very viable raid tank. Their unmatched AoE threat from concentration makes them essential for trash pools and multi-mob encounters. They provide excellent utility with Greater Blessing of Kings and can apply key debuffs. While they lack the powerful emergency cooldowns like the warriors, like the Shield Wall for example, or the Last Stand, they compensate with high survivability from their large health pools and abilities like the Argent Defender and Divine Shield. Protection Paladins remain in the A tier as a very viable raid or dungeon tank. And for the last, but definitely not least, we've got the Priest. Now, Burning Crusade made a lot of changes to the Priest, especially the Shadow Priest. And while the Healer Priest still remains the top pick for any raid or dungeon, an essential part needed to clear such raid or dungeon, the Holy Priest always will land in the A tier because it's an essential healer. Well, let's talk about the Shadow Priest and the changes that happened to the build. Now, in Burning Crusade, the Shadow Priest undergoes a dramatic transformation, evolving from struggling mana-starved caster into the cornerstone of any raid group. Gone are the days of the leaky vessel from Classic, where mana seemed to drain into oblivion. With the introduction of Vampiric Touch, the Shadow Priest becomes a fountain of mana for their entire party, a life-giving force that scales with their own damage. This, along with the new Shadow Fiend, means mana issues are no longer the crippling problem they once were. But the new power isn't just for mana. The talent tree gets a refresh too. While the Shadow Weavering is slightly nerfed, the Misery compensates, ensuring the 15% debuff on enemies while also boosting the damage of all other casters in the raid. In the world of PvE, while other classes like Mages and Warlocks might take the top spots on the damage meters, the Shadow Priest is arguably more important. They aren't just an option, they're a requirement. The massive mana boost that they provide for the raid casters is so significant that it's like having an extra healer, and their damage is still a valuable contribution. On the other side of the coin in PvP, Shadow Priest is a force to be reckoned with. They are a top-tier spec in Phase 1, especially when paired with a Warlock for a formidable 2 versus 2 combo. And if you prefer to heal in PvE, the Discipline spec is just as potent in the arenas, a go-to choice throughout the expansion. Their versatility means a priest can easily pivot between the roles to dominate in both worlds. Now, mastering the Shadow Priest isn't for the faint of heart. This is a class with the high skill cap, and mistakes can be punishing. You will need to practice to get the hang of their abilities and intricate playstyle. For those who put in the work, the rewards are immense. The ability to control the flow of a fight with spells like Dispel Magic, a single spell that is so powerful it can change the outcome of a duel or a raid boss encounter, is a testament to the priest's unique and vital role in the world of Azeroth. Shadow Priests rank B as a PvE raider and an A in the PvP arenas. Well guys, that is pretty much the breakdown of all the classes in the Burning Crusade, which tier they land for healing, tanking, PvE or PvP. What do you guys think? Did I miss anything? Did I miscategorize any of the classes? Or you think they would belong in a different tier? Let me know, I would love to hear from you. Please comment below. And thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in Azeroth.